next. November 30 is after that. And I'll try to keep everyone informed about it. The course is not really a course. It's a conversation about current events that affect Jews in America and Jews in Israel. So it's not saying that these are the only current events that count, but current events that impact the Jewish community wherever we are. We have guidelines. We did this last spring, and it really worked well, but we have guidelines. I have written this out. Quote, each of us, including me, has the right to express a strongly held opinion or to raise an objection to the opinion of another. Right? How good is that, right? But, I put that in 3 capital letters on my print, but we must be civil and polite. And I love this next sentence. I will hold the autocratic right to declare that something goes beyond acceptable norms. I love it. I have not received any votes for my position, and I have declared myself autocrat. So I think that fits lots of stuff. There's so many topics, and we're not going to be able to get to them all. Miriam Alpert is here. Hi. We're not going to be able to get to them all today, but the good news is we'll meet in 2 weeks. We'll meet in 4 weeks. We will get to them all. In 2 weeks, I would suspect that we're going to be talking about the happy results of the November 8th elections in the United States. And then, yes, I will get to Kanye West. I will. I promise you, I will get there. Gilroy told me this morning, I had not seen this, but I'm going to assume that it's correct, that some of Kanye West supporters have started a GoFundMe project to help get back over the billionaire line. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to send in, but okay. So we'll get to that.
Not a penny from me. Okay.
Well, I can send a card from all of us.
Leave my name off, okay?
Oh, okay. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we have today, we're going to do the Israeli elections, obviously. 2 weeks, we're going to do the American elections. Then we're going to do Kanye West. But given the nature of the world, if somebody or something explodes in the meanwhile, we will alter course and deal with that. So let me just get started and interrupt me. You are not interrupting. Jump in, be hostile at any moment, just at any point. When I say something you don't agree with, come in and raise your voice. The first thing I want to do, because it's important, is to give a simple introduction to Israel's electoral system. You understand that Israelis do not vote directly for prime minister. They once did for a very brief period of time. It didn't work at all. They vote for parties. And it's called a party list proportional representation. That's what we're talking about. So it's the party that will get 10% of the votes or whatever. Now, every party has submitted a party slate, and it's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. If you're Meretz, you only had a number 1, 2, or something, but everyone does. And Likud had to have a large number, and Yesh Atid had to have a large number, and so forth. So when your party gets its voting assignment, if people have voted this much, you're 10%, then you're entitled to 10% of the representation in the Knesset. And it can't work out equally. And here's a kicker. So sometimes there are votes lost. That is to say, if your party really should have gotten 10.5 seats, there isn't a 0.5. So you're back to 10. And the 0.5 represented by thousands of voters accounts for nothing. It goes down the drain. The only way in which it won't go down the drain is if you had established a vote share program with another political party. So if you end up with 0.5 and they end up with whatever number, 3.6, you're going to get 1%, you're going to get another delegate, you get another seat, okay? So doing that is very important. I will say right off the top, Labor, led by M.K. McKaylee, Labor refused to enter into a vote share relationship with Meretz. Labor is left center, Meretz is more left center, but they're in the same ballpark. Now it looks like, and there's no guarantee, it looks like Meretz will not cross the electoral threshold to get anybody. If Meretz had signed with Labor, if Labor had signed with Meretz, Labor Meretz would have picked up at least one more seat. That matters. That matters. So it's party list proportional representation in a 120 seat Knesset. Do you remember how many parties ran the last time? Anyone remember?
22.
Is it 19?
39. 39 slates. An electoral threshold was established to require a party to win at least 3.25% of the votes. If you don't hit the threshold of 3.25, all your votes, unless you're in a vote share, go into the toilet. It's over. You lose everything. The desire was to dramatically reduce the number of parties, and happily I can report that we went down from 39 parties to 20 parties.
20?
20. It didn't solve the problem, okay? It reduced the problem, but it didn't solve the problem. In the current government, which is in the process of falling, the Lapid government, there are 11 parties making the coalition. You understand? Yeah, Harvey is shaking his head. You're an accountant. You know from this. It makes for a very unstable situation. Very unstable. One party suddenly decides, I'm out of here. Boom. The whole house of cards collapse. Okay.
Didn't the Arab bloc break up and run as separate parties again this time?
There are but please raise your hand or something. Okay, good. Thank you for raising your hand. The Balad Arab Party, I'm not going to go into individual things, what they stand for, did the same thing as Labor, refused to do a vote share with other Arab parties. And because of that, it looks like Balad is out, but you understand that these were parties that if they were in, they would be supporting the anti-Bibi coalition. So by Labor refusing to sign with Meretz, by Balad refusing to sign with the other Arab parties, the anti-Bibi coalition lost several seats. We'll never know exactly. The vitriol in the Israeli press right this minute is embarrassing. They are tearing each other apart already. Michael.
Oh, just curious what the reason was that Labor did not want to enter into vote sharing, given that it could have given them benefit.
If you ask the marriage representatives, you don't have to ask. They've already gone public. They've called Labor and McKaylee, the head of Labor, every nasty political name under the sun. And they said it was arrogance and self-promoting and, politically stupid. And I have a feeling that McKaylee, in a political sense, is not long for this world. Okay, Meretz wanted, Labor didn't. By the way, the same with Balad. The Arab parties wanted Balad. Balad did not want to be in coalition with an Arab party that had been part of the Israeli government, which is what had happened this last time. It's like, you're treif. No, I won't associate with you. Well, great. Everybody lost. Now, why haven't they fixed the situation? Not great. As of today, as of now, with maybe, and you're going to be on online, you're going to be getting things better than I will right now. One thing is clear. The votes cast this time were the highest in Israel since 1999. That shocked everybody because this was the 5th election in 4 years. Enough. But Israelis went out to vote. Who didn't go out to vote? Israeli Arabs. Israeli Arabs. And that was a horrible choice because in the Israeli system, I believe the best way to protect your interests is to have your people seated in the Knesset and serve on the committees. It's the best way. Street protests are lovely. Having voters, and especially in a tight divided Knesset where your votes matter, you have leverage greater than your strength. But they chose not to do it, and they did not turn out in the numbers that were needed. That is a shame. As far as the last time I looked, which was like 10 minutes ago, but it's still changing at the end, there are some 500,000 soldiers who vote, and their votes are allowed to come in late. So their votes are being counted as we speak. But that's about the end of all the vote counting. Up to that point, it looks like, from this point of view of Stanley Davids, center and center left, all three of those groups, I have a very small group. It looks like the right-wing coalition is at 65. Last time around, it took weeks to get a government. Do you remember? They were trading, and Bibi had first shot and couldn't do it, and There'll be no such problem this time. Bibi is the prime minister elect, whatever. He was number one in the largest party with the greatest support. He will be prime minister. So that's the end of a conversation that's been going on for 6 months. Likud itself, the narrow party of which Bibi is the head, the singular party, which is the core of the right-wing coalition, you're going to see this is changing. Okay, plus or minus 32, something like that. Lapid's Yesh Atid got 23, 24, we don't know. This was a very strong showing for Yesh Atid and for Lapid. he was given credit for having served well in his brief time as prime minister. And so that worked really well for him. But where did Yesh Atid Lapid's votes come from? Meretz and labor. All the reports coming out of Israel are using the word cannibalize. Yesh Atid was strong and recognized and had a solid platform, and people jumped from Meretz and labor to Yesh Atid. Okay? So labor is crushed, Meretz may be disappearing. Yesh Atid, Lapid is certainly in the game going forward. Now, my fellow Americans, I love my fellow Americans, may I indicate to you an anomaly in the electoral system in Israel. Lapid conceded the election and is moving into the opposition. No stolen votes, no lies about machines. Lapid said, they won, I'm out, we're in opposition, we'll bring you down the next time. I know for Americans, that's a very hard thing to understand that people could do that. Steve?
What's the prognostication about how long this coalition will be able to hold power?
That's one of the questions, and it's a little soon, okay? It's a little soon because, Steve, what happens now is everyone lined up ahead of time says, we're going to back Bibi, we're going to back Bibi. And here are our list of demands. Oh, come on, everybody, we'll take everything. Now, in modern Hebrew, this is called tochas afen tish. I don't know how to translate that in a way that is appropriate. Putting your butt on the table. It's a good expression in Yiddish. Now they're going to say, I want this, we're going to sign a government coalition. This is what you have to promise us. And so on the basis of those promises, we could then begin to answer how long it could survive. Okay, so it's a little soon for that. Okay, please, Rebecca.
I thought Bibi was being investigated for corruption. And if he's being investigated for corruption, how can he be in a leadership position?
I'm committed to be friendly, even though this is an open forum and everyone's allowed to say what they believe. Rebecca, let me back up a little bit and move to your answer, okay? What is the biggest change in this week's election? The biggest change in this week's election is the religious Zionism party. Never existed before. The religious Zionism party or Zionist party may get, we're not sure, it's always 1, 2 up or down right now, 13, 14, 15 seats, brand new. Who are these people? Unfortunately, the two leaders' names may not be familiar to you. And here I am gently saying to you, you better make them familiar. You have to know these names because they'll be in the New York Times front page tomorrow and likely across the board. Why? The first person's name is Bezalel Smotrich. Honestly, Smotrich. Schwartz would have been a lot easier. Okay, Smotrich. The other name is Itamar Ben Gvir, Gvir, Ben Gvir. If you've never heard of these names before, fine. You shouldn't have. My promise and threat is that you will hear their names regularly as long as this government, answering Steve a little bit, sits. As long as this government sits, the religious Zionist party with their 13, 14, 15 seats is the linchpin holding it together. Bibi could not have won without their support. Fine. Who are these lovely gentlemen? Their platform includes the following. Please do not send notes in the chat as I list the platform. There may be censorship that things you say might be against federal law. Number one. Oh, Rebecca, it's right to you. Eliminate the crimes of which Bibi has been charged. Don't you laugh at me, I'm giving you truth. He has been charged with fraud and breach of trust. The first plank in their platform is, those are no longer crimes. Okay, are you all happy? We continue. Number two. Rebecca is now quietly passing out. We will just skip past her. From now on, if this plank becomes law, the Knesset members will control who becomes Supreme Court justices. Do you understand what I'm saying? In a Knesset dominated by the far right, the Knesset will give to itself the right, arrogate to itself the right to change the law as to how Supreme Court justices are nominated and approved, putting it into the hands of politicians. Now, in America, that's not so strange because we certainly have deep political connections between Supreme Court justices and the president, and perhaps the Senate as well. That's for that. Number three, to reinstitute the death penalty in Israel to be applied only to convicted terrorists. We can talk about that. That is pernicious beyond expression. But next, number four, grant soldiers automatic immunity from prosecution if they shoot and kill a terrorist. In other words, there will be no recourse to circumstances. If a soldier kills a terrorist, that is immune, no matter what the circumstances. You understand that not every time you confront a terrorist is death the only answer, right? Soldiers immune. Next, are you having fun yet? Those who support terrorism as defined by whom? Those who support terrorism will have their citizenship revoked and they will be deported. Next, only two left. There is something called Chok HaShvut, the law of return in Israel. We all know it, right? Law of return. If you have a grandparent who is Jewish, you can still apply under the law of return to become a citizen of Israel. Certainly, if you have parents who are Jewish living outside the country who want to come in and become citizens, law of return, they come in, basically automatic citizenship. Very nice. The law of return up until now has permitted a non-Jewish grandchild from being counted in as, yes, you can become a citizen of Israel if your grandparents were Jewish, but you as an individual no longer are. That will be revoked. And last, Reformed Jews, Wilshire Boulevard, listen up. They want to enact a law that will give control of conversions solely and totally to the chief rabbinate, ultra-Orthodox, and the only conversions that will be acceptable in Israel will be conversions that are done according to Orthodox law. That is the platform of this organization. They now are supporting this platform, and in coalition negotiations, these are the planks they want in the Bibi government. That is to say, promise me this or we won't support you. If they remove their support, there is no Bibi government, period. So is there a likelihood that some or most or many of these things will happen? Okay, I see Rebecca, Michael, Steve.
What happens to the Arab coalition if this comes to pass?
There is no member of the Arab coalition in the Bibi government. So all the leverage that they had in the previous year and a half, whatever, is wiped out. And the gains that they've made in terms of budget and protection and electricity and infrastructure, water and so forth for their bill, over.
Wow.
Michael?
I think you were just about to address my question, but it's whether there are any institutional or practical hurdles standing between the new majority and the enactment of this platform.
Good question. I think the fast answer is probably no. No. Bibi will have to present to President Herzog his statement that I have 65 votes and this is our signed coalition agreement. Herzog will then invite Bibi to form the government. He will become prime minister. There is no, with that kind of control of the Knesset, to put it in the vernacular, they can pretty much do damn well what they please. Steve, Risa.
Are there any other parties in this coalition who oppose the planks of this religious party?
The Religious Zionist Party. And the best way, thank you, Tufan, thank you. The best way to answer that is they may very well not find those planks satisfactory, but their choice is going to be accept the planks or there's no Bibi government and you won't be a minister, you won't get a budget, you won't get. Do I think that the odds are that any one of the coalition parties supporting Bibi will pull out excuse the expression, which is foreign to most of them, on principle? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Risa,
Is this party with that plank, those planks, is that a Haredi party? Is it separate from the Haredi? Or you haven't used the word, but
I try not to swear in public. I tell you, I am unfettered here. I am simply being me. Okay. Now, no, they are not Haredi. They are not. Let me just give you a moment, Risa, and I'll get back to Haredi. Can I tell you a little bit more about Ben Gvir?
yeah.
Well, it's easier to say than Smotrich. So I'll talk about Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir, when he was 18 years old, applied to become a soldier, member of the IDF. Okay? Pretty standard. Everyone does it. He was rejected at age 18 by the IDF because of his radical activities. Hold on to that. This man is going to be given the ministry of public safety, the police in Israel. That's going to be his ministry. He is going to be given charge of security on the Temple Mount, and hear this, at the Kotel. But there's more. In 1994, Baruch Goldstein went to the cave of Machpelah in Hebron. You'll remember this Purim event, and shot and killed 29 Palestinians as an expression of his Purim celebration. Ben Gvir has Baruch Goldstein's picture in his office. Okay? Oh, that's the worst of it, right? No, it's not the worst of it. Ben Gvir has a spiritual mentor, no longer living, a spiritual mentor. He publicly acknowledges his gratitude to Rabbi Meir Kahane. Meir Kahane, the radical, militant, madman, is the spiritual father of the man who is going to be head of the police civil order inside the state of Israel. Now, these people, Risa, are Orthodox. Ben Gvir and Smotrich are Orthodox. But they don't dress Haredi-ish, if you will. I mean, you understand what I'm saying. They wear a kippah, whatever, and a suit, but like that. They are not affiliated with a Haredi party. The Haredi parties love them, right? But they are distinct in that fashion. Before I go on, is there another question? I hope everyone's having a good time. I actually, a couple of days ago, our friend, President Yitzhak Bougie Herzog issued a public statement which made my blood run cold. Speaking to the General Assembly of the Federations of North America on video, Herzog said, "I beg American Jews not to reject Israel because of the particular victories in a particular political campaign." I read that. It was before the election. And what did that tell me? The president of Israel knew very well where all the votes were headed and how it was going to end up. He raised a question which is matched by one of the news headlines this morning. Bibi will have an extremely difficult time relating to Biden. Biden had publicly asked Israelis to consider the impact of a right-wing militant government in terms of relationships with the United States. Unforgivable. Bibi, like Trump, very committed to avenging slights. So you can bet, and I'm not saying right or wrong, you can bet that Bibi will look at the United States under its current administration as an outright enemy. Israel, United States. The friend of Israel will be Trump. Okay, I see hands up, Joanne.
If this government is actually formed, does that mean the planks go into effect without anything else happening?
Well, some of them have to be passed by the Knesset, you know, the things. Getting the planks accepted by Bibi and approved through the president is not creating law. But it's telling you what it will take to keep those 13, 15 seats supporting Bibi. Smotrich and Ben-Gvir both publicly state that they view Bibi as a weak failure. And Smotrich has indicated that he said this publicly yesterday, he is the future prime minister of Israel. So even before he's in the coalition, he's already challenged Bibi publicly. But that's okay, because he said nasty things about Bibi in political parties and gatherings, so forth. Everyone knows. He has no respect for Bibi. And Bibi, forgive me, screws with him, breaks the promise, you know, I'll support this plank, breaks the promise, delays the promise. These guys will bolt to bring down the government because they believe that the next election, they're going to be even stronger. Okay, Michael.
So the plank about repealing the laws that Bibi would be liable under sort of puts me in mind of the way here that the American right is adjusting law and playing with rule of law in order to try and establish minority rule. Obviously, in Israel, we are talking about majority rule here, but I'm wondering if there are any other intimations that while in this position of power, that they would pass other laws intended specifically to make it less likely that they lose their majority going forward.
It's hard to know. That one is not on the table. Since it's not on the table, Michael, I won't prognosticate. Whether they will or won't, you know, TBD. Let me be very clear as a Reformed Jew. Rebecca, I'll get you in a second. As a Reformed Jew, this new government will push back many of the gains made by the reform and conservative and the secular movements in Israel for rights. You know, for example, the Haredim banned pictures of women on municipal school buses when women were running for political office. And when a banner, a poster would be on the bus, they would rip it or paint it or do something. That's against the law now. How long will that be against the law? When a woman comes onto a public bus and wants to sit in the front next to a man, 10 years ago, she would be forced to sit in the back. That was changed. That no longer is legal. It's still being practiced every once in a while, but it's not legal. That could be changed, and women will be brought to the back of the bus. Reform congregations which serve municipalities, not just a cluster of people, but a municipality, have now been getting building allocations like Orthodox congregations so they can construct their synagogues. That is likely to stop. Conversions performed in the United States by Reform, conservative, and let me be clear, many Orthodox rabbis who don't support the right Orthodox party, those are permitted now in terms of becoming citizens. That'll be changed. Rebecca.
What will be the anti-Semitic fallout from this if this comes to pass?
First of all, I am prone to say when and not if. I am prone to say that the ballots are cast, the parties are lined up, and we know their platforms. So the question, I wrote this really wonderful book about deepening the dialogue, Israeli and American Jews. And the core of it dealt with, can Israel be a Jewish and a democratic state? Hold on to that. I am a prophet, blessed from the Almighty with a voice that echoes wisdom. The answer as of today is no. Because Israel voted to be a Jewish Israel, not a democratic Israel. Brad.
Rabbi, you touched a bit on foreign policy and relationship with the United States. What about other foreign policy changes that we might expect towards Ukraine, for example, towards Russia, towards Iran? Is there daylight between any of these parties on these issues, or are they all singing the same song?
No, they're not singing the same song. One of the certainly parties to the political left have been demanding that Israel start shipping serious, highly sophisticated weaponry without listing it to Ukraine. Israel has refused. When every time I hear an Israeli representative say, but we sent them mobile field hospitals, I could gag. You know, I'm happy for the mobile field hospitals, but they need Israel's extraordinarily sophisticated military equipment, anti-missile, the whole business. And Israel to this date has refused. In my mind, bad mistake. But Israel's refused. There are reasons. We talked about it before. Unfortunately, Brad, Israel will now be able to communicate easily with Hungary. Israel will now be able to communicate easily with Italy. Unfortunately, Israel will have better communication with a large part of the French population. You understand what I'm saying? Israel has moved in this election into the camp not of the right center, but of the extreme right. And let me just move on from there. Harvey?
Another question. What happens to the Druze with this new government? Are all their rights gone?
I'm not going to be able to answer that because I don't know, which is highly unusual for me. Usually I'll come up with an answer even if I don't know. But I don't know because it's not been on the agenda. The Druze serve loyally in the Israeli military and have achieved achieved high position. But the Druze will not sing Hatikva because that would give loyalty to a particular state, which is against Druze religious philosophic perspective. I lay that out there. I don't know what'll happen, but that's public. And there have been many on the right who find that intolerable. But there's nothing said about that right now. Do I have another hand up before I move forward? So, okay. Jewish Israel, democratic Israel. I want to read, any of you familiar with Yossi Klein Halevi? Yossi Klein Halevi is one of the brilliant intellectual voices of the Shalom Hartman Institute. And what makes him interesting is that Yossi Klein Halevi, as a teenager and a young adult, was a member of the Jewish Defense League. He was a follower of Meir Kahane. Yossi Klein Halevi evolved, grew, and is now quite a centrist with a very sharp critique of Israeli politics. I quote, "The ultra-Orthodox party seek to permanently burden the Israeli economy with a rapidly growing population incapable of joining a cutting-edge workforce dependent instead on government largesse. To preserve the walls around their separatist society within a society, ultra-Orthodox leaders are prepared to accommodate Netanyahu's hedonism and Ben-Gvir's apocalyptic recklessness." Do you hear the language? Apocalyptic recklessness. It is a coalition of the amoral and the immoral. Yossi Klein Halevi, all in the name of Torah True Judaism. Following Meir Kahane, Ben-Gvir promotes a racist theology that places hatred and vengeance at the core of Judaism. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Everyone, usually in my classes, people are smiling and having a good time. I don't understand. One of the key questions we're going to have in a country, United States, where young American Jews are in many ways disaffected from Israel. What will this do? No way to know. One thing, folks, I'm going to draw the analogy, and you're going to have to live with it. You can yell. I am an Israeli citizen. Reese is an Israeli citizen. We will continue to fight for. The first conversation that I have to have this fight is at 1:30 today, in a conversation with very smart people. But this battle to save Israel's soul, starts now. And I, for one, and I know I don't mean I can't speak for Rishi, she wouldn't let me, but I believe that nothing is going to stop me from fighting against anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And I will fight to support the state of Israel, but I will not support every decision of the state of Israel by a long shot. Just as I have a feeling as to what's going to happen on November 8th. Tune in 2 weeks. I have a feeling about what's going to happen. I am an American citizen, and I will not turn my back on America, despite what I think is, again, an apocalyptic assault on human and civil rights in America. We may be losing everything, Stanley speaking. We may be losing everything, but I'm in no mood to give up the battle. So that's where I am. I see Pat, and then I see Merle.
This may be something you'll cover in the future weeks. I'd like an analysis of the voters. Why did they do this? Was it just simply because of the Arab citizen vote not being there? Or was there some shift to the right by the voting populace itself?
Easy answer quickly, and I have to do it quickly, but we will get back to it. Radical shift to the right. You didn't want that answer. I'll try to come up with a different answer. Okay, radical shift to the right. I can give you a little example. Tel Aviv is the center of Meretz, left, center, and Labor, left, center. Their votes flooded to Yesh Atid, center and center right. So the liberals, Tel Aviv, the big liberal city, Tel Aviv shifted to the right, the country. This election shifted to the right path. Okay, Merle. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Okay.
I have a question. I have a question going back to all these new rules. Will any of this affect?
They're planks right now.
Well, okay,
They're planks.
got it. If they happen, assuming they will, if the vote goes the way Netanyahu wants it to go, will this affect HUC at all? I mean, it's a privately owned institution, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also nationally licensed and so forth and so on.
Right.
From my perspective, I don't believe that will happen, but I do believe that grants and subventions for various programs may dry up.
Grants from Israel, in
Yeah,
other words,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not, nothing, it won't be a,
The United States gives grants to support God knows
Right.
what program. HUC may have a harder time because the Israeli budget will now move to increase support for non-working Haredi families.
got it.
And that's where the money will go.
And I remember years ago when Harvey Fields did he do a conversion there? He did a wedding there. Will that be allowed anymore?
No,
So that's done as well.
never was. You could I did a wedding in Israel.
Right,
Doesn't mean that the state smiled at it. I did the
right,
wedding,
okay,
and then the family went to Cyprus to get a real wedding.
right, okay. I was just curious about where all these things in the past.
Harvey could never have officiated at a real wedding in Israel.
Right, got it, okay.
Rabbi,
I don't remember all the logistics at the time. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, Brad?
are there any small right-wing parties that potentially could be deal makers here and bolt from this government to bring it down?
Theoretically, it's a fine question. Theoretically, yes. But the odds, again, we're talking ministries and budgets. They're not going to want to sit down with labor. They'll barely be able to sit down with Yesh Atid. They'll never sit with Meretz. Where would they go? Where would they go? And they would, by Gilroy, thank you. Where will they go to make it worth the sacrifice of budget and jobs for them, for their party? And that's politics. So I'm not saying this is horrible. It's the name of the game. It's the name of the game. Why do the ultra-Orthodox support Bibi? Because in every coalition agreement, he increases their budgets. Period. That's number one. And again, that's not evil. That's how parliamentary systems work. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I were a joke teller. Hey, did you hear the one about? I don't have a joke. May I just thank you for joining us today. It was one of the hardest classes I ever had to prepare for.
Thank you for giving us all this information.
It's all fake. None of it's true. It's important that we know, like, you got to know the name Smotrich and Ben Gvir. You're going to see it. You're going to see it in the Times, time after time. Get to know their names. They are the threat to tomorrow greater than Bibi. And they will drive Bibi to the right to keep them there. Okay, love you all.
Love you too.
Love you back.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Maybe get some ice cream. Get some ice cream or something and just be happy. We'll be together after the American elections.
Thank you so
Then
much.
we'll have more to discuss.
Never know. People will speak.